Excellencies and distinguished speakers, on behalf of the Cosmos Foundation, I welcome you to today's Ambassadors Lecture Series on Bangladesh-Japan Relations, Prognosis for the Future. I will now run through the program itinerary for today's event, which will be recorded and broadcast at a later date on our media partner, United News of Bangladesh's channels, details of which will be shared with all of you. Today, we will commence with welcome remarks by Mr. Inayatullah Khan, Chairman of Cosmos Foundation, who will then hand it over to our Chair, Dr. Iftikhar Ahmed Chowdhury, to deliver his remarks. The keynote address will be delivered by His Excellency, Mr. Iwama Kiminori, the Ambassador of Japan to Bangladesh, followed by our distinguished discussants who will each speak for a duration of 10 minutes. Mr. Abdul Kalam Azad, former Principal Coordinator, SDGs, Mr. Ichiguchi Tomohiri, Chief Representative, Bangladesh Office of Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, Mr. Monzurul Haq, retired professor, columnist, and former president of the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan, FCCJ, Ambassador Tariq Karim, former Bangladesh High Commissioner to India and Ambassador to the United States, Honorary Emeritus Advisor, Cosmos Foundation. Joining us online, Dr. Mayumi Murayama, Executive Vice President, Institute of Developing Economics, Professor Masaki Ohashi, retired professor, University of Sacred Heart and Keisen University. However, due to last-minute unforeseen circumstances, Dr. Mayumi Murayama will not be able to make it, and she profusely regrets it. Thank you, and we very much look forward to the discussion today. I will now hand it over to Mr. Inayatullah Khan to commence our session.
This is one of the most anticipated Cosmos dialogues since we started on this journey, because it comes right at the time when the topic of today's symposium, the bilateral relationship between Bangladesh and Japan, is poised for a historic transformation. I deem it a great honor to have for our guest speaker in the Cosmos Ambassadors Lecture Series, Ambassador Iwama Kiminori. I bid him, as I do all of you, a very warm welcome with our university. This is also an opportune moment for our interactions. The visit of Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh to Japan, which happened recently, was a watershed point in our bilateral relations. Today here, we are provided with an opportunity to discuss and debate, among other things, its various ramifications and to determine as to how this can propel us to a higher level of international interactions. The exceptional range and depth of the multiple agreements signed during Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's summit with Prime Minister Fumio Kishida also suggests the trip was highly successful. But who better than the Japanese ambassador in Dhaka himself to provide us with an overview of where the relation stands today and where it might be going from his unique vantage point. Exceedingly grateful to the ambassador for very kindly making the time to grace the occasion, and we look forward to getting several insights from your keynote speech. In the weeks leading up to the Prime Minister's recent visit, the Japanese side has been talking up the partnership in a big way as part of regional trifecta with India, in particular its northeastern states, where Japan has long stood out as Bangladesh's most generous foreign donor and most important development partner, and with Bangladesh figuring as the largest cumulative recipient of Japanese grant since 1980s. The Bengalis and the Japanese have had a long tradition that dates back into history. I would recommend to you all to read a book which was written by Mr. Probir Bikash Sarkar's momentous work, Jana Ojana Japan, If you can get hold of that book, that would give you a marvelous reading of the historic ties between Bangladesh and Japan. This book will definitely reflect on the intellectual linkages forged during 6 visits, I guess. Some people say 5, but I guess it's 6, between 1916 and 1929 to Japan of the poet Rabindranath Tagore, and the support accorded by Japan to the freedom struggle of the subcontinent from the British through Netaji Subhash Bose. Later down the line, the links forged may have led Japan to recognize and establishing relationship with independent Bangladesh on February 1972, long before its friends and primary ally, the United States. Indeed, relations were established in right earnest when Mr. Takashi Kayakawa, a senior Japanese envoy, visited Bangladesh as early as March 1972. They were placed on firm footing with Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's historic visit to Japan in October 1973. Thereafter, the collaboration expanded by leaps and bounds. Japan became the largest donor of ODA that reached its climax after comprehensive partnership was forged in 2014, with the total amounts exceeding $25 billion in a mix of grants and credits. Eventually, as Bangladesh economy developed, trade came to the fore, Bangladesh exporting RMG and leather goods to the tune of $1.3 billion annually and importing iron and steel vehicles machinery worth almost $2 billion. It's hoped that Bangladesh's export basket could be enlarged to contain more pharmaceuticals, agriculture, fisheries, products, and trade deficit may be reduced. With Prime Minister Hasina's recent visit to Tokyo, the bilateral relationship was raised from comprehensive to a strategic level. Just prior to the visit of Bangladesh, Foreign Ministry published an Indo-Pacific Outlook document, which envisioned a free, open, secure, and inclusive Indo-Pacific for the shared prosperity of all. It found resonance in Japan, which had been hoping to add defense and security elements to the relationship as well. Already implementation of Japanese support of mega projects within its idea of Big B, or Bay of Bengal Industrial Growth Belt, is underway. It includes the Matabari Deep Sea Project, Dhaka MRT, Terminal 3 of Shah Jalal Airport, and Arai Hazar was underway. These would facilitate regional connectivity and give impetus to the development of Bangladesh as a regional hub. We welcome the announcement for the feasibility study of a bilateral free trade or an economic partnership agreement between Bangladesh and Japan. We believe it can be crafted in a way to be mutually beneficial, and would hope for its conclusion before graduation or out of its LDC status in 2026. This would also enhance our collaboration on clean energy, blue economy, and importantly, climate change. Japan has made no secret of its hope that Bangladesh can play a key role in realizing its Indo-Pacific strategy, styled as its vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific FOIP, aimed at ensuring a rules-based international order to bring stability and prosperity for every country, as well as to secure peace and prosperity in the region.
I have shared a podium with him before and am aware of his deep and abiding commitment to his responsibilities. In the brief period that he has spent as ambassador, Ambassador Yamama that he has been here, he has carved out for himself a niche professionally. I would want to cut to the chase and invite the ambassador to speak, but I hope you'll bear with me just for a few minutes for me to enable me to make some remarks that I feel I should make as the moderator. Now, Bangladesh and Japan demonstrate that more than just an example of what good relations between two state actors in international relations should be. They provide us a paradigm of such a relationship, one between a developed and a developing nation, that can prove mutually rewarding, contributing at the same time to global peace, tranquility, and stability. The recent visit of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to Japan has strengthened the foundations of these ties and enhanced their future potentials. We hope that it will broaden, the visit will broaden the links across a broad spectrum of activities. Also that it will act as a catalyst, underscoring the benefits that is brought to both parties by Bangladesh continuing to remain the largest recipient of Japan's development support. We shall most certainly hear a lot more on these topics today. In a recent talk, I had spoken at length on the way Japan takes a sober, subtle, and sophisticated view on subject matters of global significance. It adopts postures on those issues shaped and informed by the manner of its perceptions. The reason is that there is a felt need in Japan for it to be seen as a positive and stabilizing factor in global politics, for which Japan has already earned considerable international plaudits. Japan is a serious candidate for permanent membership of the United Nations Security Council, for which it has already acquired a broad support base. I say this as Japan assumes the presidency of G7 since the summit hosted in Hiroshima, the city which bears the great symbolism for peace, as we all know. And I also say this as Japan has for its leader a person of prodigious dimensions, Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. His commitment to universal liberal values is well known. At a time of rising tensions in the region and around the world, his leadership of G7 should stand us in good stead. Like many in this room, what I admire deeply about Japan is not just its successes, though also that, but mostly its ability to combine modernity with tradition and use this combination to propel forward culture and civilization. Bangladesh, as the rest of the world today, is also subject to vagaries of nature. This is because we have relentlessly abused our environment, causing a hugely negative impact on the climate. A famous Japanese work of art should remind us of this, The Great Wave by Hokusai Katsushika. The artist masterfully portrays a huge wave akin to an enormous monster which is about to crash with its claw-like crests on some tiny boats. It symbolizes the irresistible power of nature against the weaknesses of human beings. This should teach us to treat our planet's environment with respect and dignity. There is therefore much to learn from Japan and the Japanese.
Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of today's presentation is a Bangladesh-Japan relationship, prognosis for the future. Since the joint statement, as was mentioned by my previous speakers, between two countries was launched about a month ago, it might be an interesting idea to compare the agreement in 2014 with that of April this year and identify what the new elements are. But after having closely looked at the documents, it might be also stimulating for today's audience to analyze what made such differences between two documents possible. In other words, I would like to think about the change of the environment surrounding Bangladesh and Japan, as well as two countries themselves, and how such changes are reflected to the new document issued on April 26th. So much for my introductory remarks, and I would like to go into the first part of my presentation. So the first part is between 2014 and 2023, what has changed? Firstly, let me think about some of the important factors that affect the evolutionary development of the two countries from 2014 to 2023. The first point which I would like to highlight is Russia. As you all know, I'm not an expert of this region. Looking back the year 2014, I worked in the embassy of Thailand until summer of that year, and I was assigned to work in Berlin, in Germany, from 2014 to 2018. And after a short period of work in Tokyo as a chief of protocol, I was posted in Germany again, but this time in Düsseldorf until September last year. Now as an ambassador in Bangladesh, I understand that the year 2014 is the milestone year for the bilateral relationship between Bangladesh and Japan. But because of my background as a diplomat who served in Europe for long years, 2014 reminds me of the annexation of the Crimea by Russia. Just a week ago, as was mentioned, the government of Japan hosted G7 Hiroshima summit, and so many issues are intensively discussed among the world leaders in Japan. However, looking back from today's perspective, it is difficult to comprehend that until 2013, before the 2014, G7 instead of G7 was the name of the meeting, including Russia, and the President Putin was the full-fledged member of that group. Today, again, I do not go into the evaluation of the initiative, but for over a decade, China has been showed its tangible growth and confidence in the world economy, so that they are playing a leading role in the field of diplomacy in the past 10 years. With regard to the relation with China, Japan is inevitably the neighboring countries of China, and therefore we have several issues, as you may know, in which our opinions are different. At the same time, two countries are important economic partners, and we have a historic ties with each other. According to the press statement made by Prime Minister Kishida at the occasion of the G7 summit meeting as a chair, he mentioned that, quote, "It is important to conduct a frank dialogue to deliver our acute concern to China, while it is also necessary to collaborate with China on important global issues." I would like to highlight, if I look back in the middle of 2010, that the importance of focusing on the regional integration. If I may take one example from the viewpoint of Japan for the engagement in the economic partnership agreement. Until circa some 20 years ago, the priority was put to negotiate bilaterally with certain countries like Thailand, 2007, Indonesia, 2008, and Vietnam, 2009. When we look back, the last decade was a decade for regional economic partnership agreement. For example, we, the Japanese government, took the lead, signed, and ratified important agreements like TPP, so-called TPP. The real name is a very long one, CPTPP, Comprehensive and Progressive Agreements for Trans-Partnership, Pacific Partnership, ratified in 2018. And as you may know, that RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, was signed and finally ratified in 2022. And in addition, it is not mentioned in this slide, in the year of 2019, again, I go back to the memories of the European days, but we ratified the EPA with EU. which is an essential agreement for the rule-based trade in the era of President Trump. I do remember the attitude of Japan to support a rule-based trade framework has been highly appreciated by the counterparts in the world, I believe, in the last decade. Now, let me turn to the domestic environment in the respective countries, namely Bangladesh and Japan. So, those are the short sketches of the external factors that we have experienced during the last decade in reflecting our bilateral relations. Now, I would like to look into the internal factors of each country from 2014 to 2023, which might affect the outcome of our agreement in April. As a newcomer of the bilateral relationship between this country and Japan, I hesitate to describe the development of Bangladesh in an analytical manner. I therefore try to limit my observation to the simple facts that we can share easily. First, when it comes to the leadership, whereas the leadership of Bangladesh for the last decade remains the same, we have experienced, we don't have any slide to share, but three prime ministers in these 10 years. Prime Minister Abe signed the Comprehensive Partnership Agreement in 2014, as you may know, while the current document was signed by the current Prime Minister Kishida. Even though the two Japanese leaders belong to the same political party in Japan, the accent that Mr. Kishida put in his policy speech in India on FOIP, free and open Indo-Pacific, might be slightly different from that of Mr. Abe. I will get back to this point later on. Secondly, the center slide, with regard to the economy, it is needless to say that Bangladesh has been enjoying the constant economic growth until the war between Ukraine and Russia has broken out. At least at this moment, after the time of pandemic, it is often broadcasted in the Japanese media that all the sectors which have something to do with the incoming of the people are revitalized in a rapid manner in Japanese domestic market or the Japanese domestic economy. Thirdly, both Bangladesh and Japan have experienced significant changes in and around countries in terms of regional stability. The so-called Rohingya issue, which was paid attention to the world in 2017, continues to be one of the biggest problems that this country is facing. Over 1 million displaced persons from Rakhine State are currently living in Bangladesh, which still has the status of LDC and needs help for its own development. I do think that this is not only the issues for Bangladesh itself, but also it is a challenge for regional stability, which the global community should be tackled with. No wonder this problem belongs to the issue which is being addressed as a new element in the agreed document in 2023. If I try to identify, going to the Japanese environment, if I try to identify the most important issues to be tackled from the viewpoint of the Japanese diplomacy in the last decades, how to deal with the security challenges surrounding Japan can be addressed according to my observation. For example, those who lived or are living in the past 10 years, I'm sure this presentation is online observed by Ohashi Sensei as well. In the past 10 years in Japan, those who can share this view that the security situation is very, very becoming unstable. That if you take a look at the fact that the right-hand side, so many missiles were and still are launched in the last 1 decade from North Korea, And if you take a look at the last slide, it is until as of July 2022. And I found out that after July last year, in total, over 50 cases. So tremendously high. So every week, once every week, in average, we receive the alert warning sign from the government that the North Korea again launched a missile, and that phenomena is continuously undertaken even in 2023. So just a couple of days ago, the people living in Japan experienced the early warning of the missiles and flying objects from that country. I would like to touch upon the fact that the relevant document on national security strategy, national defense strategy, as well as the defense build-up program by the Japanese government were decided December last year. With regard to the peace and stability of the region, not only surrounding Japan, but also for the Indo-Pacific region as a whole, I have to mention that the Free and Open Indo-Pacific Initiative was advocated by Prime Minister Abe, late Prime Minister Abe, for the first time in 2016. In the document on comprehensive partnership in 2014, there was not a clear mentioning about the concept because 2014 is a little bit before the 2016. But the idea was indicated in the document as well. In the new document, this issue was described in accordance with the new initiative made by Prime Minister Kishida, but as I mentioned, I would explain this big topic later on. So let me go into the second part. From 2014 to 2023, what has changed in the statement? First of all, the overview. The overall structure, three pillars, has not changed. Against those background of the external and internal factors, what has changed from the previous statement to the current one? In other words, what is the difference between the comprehensive partnership and strategic partnership? Comparing two documents, I found that the fundamental structure of the two statements has unchanged. Both documents consist of the three pillars of areas of cooperation, namely, cooperation for peace and stability is stated as the first pillar. The economic cooperation and mutual benefit and regional prosperity is identified as the second pillar. Cultural cooperation and the people-to-people exchange is the third pillar, third element of cooperation for enhancing the bilateral relationship. Having said this, without getting into the precise wording, I would like to make a small footnote on respective pillars. With regard to the first pillar, the document issued in 2014 referred global peace and stability, whereas the title of the current one is the Peace and Stability in the Region and Beyond. When it comes to the economic cooperation, the new document put the word deepening. And furthermore, regarding the third pillar, the word expansion was chosen for this area. Now, I would like to look into the details thoroughly according to the three pillars and think concretely what has changed after almost 1 decade. So first of all, peace and stability, cooperation in the areas of peace and stability. I think there are three elements which needs to be addressed as the new factors in comparison with the previous document statement. First of all, in the new document, there are many references for the future possible development of bilateral security cooperation. As you may know, 8 documents are signed in conjunction with the two leaders' statement on April 26th. And among others, the document which received high attention from both countries was the Memorandum of Defense Cooperation and Exchanges. And it is worth mentioning that exchanges between the senior level officers between Bangladesh and Japan has been intensified in these years. Recently, two vessels of Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force made their fourth visit to Chittagong from April 9 to 11, following the calls in 2012, 2019, 2022, namely last year. We will continue to strengthen the people-to-people exchange in the field of defense in accordance with the agreed document. However, in addition to that idea, we would like to embark on the cooperation in the field of equipment, materials in the future, as stated in the document, in which two leaders welcome the commencement of the negotiation on agreement concerning the transfer of defense equipment and technology. At the same time, Japan has established a new framework for cooperation called Official Security Assistance, OSA, not ODA, in April. The cooperation and making use of this framework as well. We will identify and conduct a cooperation in this field. Today, I cannot elaborate more in concrete terms as far as the cooperation of the concrete equipments are concerned. All I can say now is that we are discussing the concrete cooperation with Bangladesh colleagues, utilizing new framework in the future, utilizing these new frameworks based upon the requests made by the government of Bangladesh. In the document issued in 2014, Prime Minister Abe announced his commitment to provide up to 600 billion yen of additional assistance in Bangladesh in about 4 or 5 years. After this document was issued, he visited Bangladesh in the same year, 2014, and launched the so-called Big B initiative, the Bay of Bengal Industrial Growth Belt, which aims to help Bangladesh set up its industrial corridor and its economic infrastructure in the country. As stated in the new document, the commitment was fulfilled, and there are a number of tangible outcomes of this initiative, such as the Metro Line 6 and the Bangladesh Special Economic Zone (BSEZ) in Al-Hazar both launched in their operation in December last year. In addition, the pre-opening of Dhaka International Airport Terminal 3 is scheduled this year. Development of Batabari Deep Sea Port, which will complement the function of Chittagong Port and expand business activities in the entire region, is also underway, as you know. In the new document, there seems to be no eye-catching deliverables like the announcement in 2014. Although the future areas of cooperation such as ICT and agro-based business are identified, no numerical targets are mentioned for bilateral development cooperation. As I explained at many other occasions, admitting the further needs for infrastructure development, the priority of this country is gradually shifting other challenges, namely to induce more investment from foreign countries and how this country can deal with the challenges related to the graduation from the status of LDC in 2026. The former issue is clearly deferred in the new document. touched upon the positive results of the public-private joint economic dialogue, which was established based upon the agreement in 2014. It is worth mentioning that in the current document, the target time of the next meeting of PPED is added. I do believe that more needs to be done to improve the business environment in this country, but at the same time, I am pleased that the will is there from both sides, especially from the Bangladesh side. When it comes to the latter challenge, the challenge of the how to deal with the graduation from the LDC in 2026, maybe the next slide. The efforts for possible realization of the bilateral EPAs touched upon in the document, saying that the first joint study group of the possibility of a Japan-Bangladesh economic partnership agreement is stated. In sum, it is easy to summarize that our relations should shift from donor-recipient partnership to equal partnership in the trade and investment, but it is difficult to implement and adjust in the new era. However, accompanying the Honorable Prime Minister's visit to Japan, I noticed the energy of the business community and as well as the government of Bangladesh to promote the investment to Bangladesh, and we should continue to support what this country is aiming at. So we will go to the third pillar, the culture and people-to-people exchange. Last but not least, I would like to touch upon the third pillar. In comparison with the first and second pillar, according to my observation, there are not many significant changes after 10 years. However, I would like to pay attention on the establishment of the first friendship city relationship between the city of Naruto, Japanese city, and Narayanganji, because this could be one of the milestone agreement for people-to-people exchange in the relation of Bangladesh in the future. Throughout my career as a diplomat, I have observed so many success stories of city-to-city cooperation, which served as an engine to the people-to-people exchange in the country as a whole. And I do hope that such good practice could be expanded to any relations between the cities of two countries. So I hope that other countries are also interested in the future to have some close partnership with other counterparts between Bangladesh and Japan. Let me add another good practice with regard to people-to-people exchange, which is written under the second pillar in the document, but I would like to highlight as a third pillar. So-called Miyazaki Bangladesh model is a framework for receiving young IT students to Miyazaki City with a collaboration of Miyazaki University, the city of Miyazaki, and the companies in the city. Today, I do not touch upon the issues in detail, but I would like to explain 2 points. One is that after the success of Miyazaki model, I sensed that and heard personally that the other local cities and the Japanese-related companies showed interest in accepting the talented persons from Bangladesh. I experienced before coming to Bangladesh and even after that. Secondly, the Miyazaki Bangladesh model was initiated by JICA, and JICA is continuously conducting other schemes to facilitate the capacity building in this area. Maybe our colleague from JICA might elaborate more. In this regard, I would like to introduce the third India-Japan Intellectual Conclave conducted in Agartala, Tripura on April 12 and 12 to 13, in which the representatives from various sectors of 3 countries participated. Until now, there are not many mechanisms for trilateral dialogue of India, Japan, and Bangladesh, but Beyond this theme, the specific theme on the regional connectivity between the Bay of Bengal and the northeastern part of India, there might be some mechanisms in the future, as Foreign Minister Momen mentioned in one other seminar, in the future for the trilateral cooperation. If such framework might be realized, there are more issues which could be taken up under those new formats. Furthermore, it is worthwhile to explore regional cooperation under other regional organizations in South Asia and beyond that, especially the enhancement of the relationship with ASEAN. It will definitely be essential for the development of Bangladesh. I personally think that although the imminent task for our contribution, Japan's contribution, is to the development of the Bangladesh might be acceleration of bilateral EPA process, but to help engage in other regional economic partnership agreement like RCEP, RCEP, might be also important for the development of this country, if Bangladesh wishes to do so. At the same time, I do hope that it would be nice if the ASEAN countries show from their side interest in strengthening the relationship with Bangladesh in this regard as well. As mentioned in the joint statement, the next slide, the consideration is being made to dispatch first Bangladesh person under the JET program, Japan Exchange and Teaching Program, is a positive signal. I firmly believe there should be more persons who are willing to introduce culture of Bangladesh or the language, like the partnership relation between Naruto and Narayanganji, will be expanded. Having said this, at this moment, many people are interested in visiting Japan not for that purpose, but to seek for the sake of job opportunity. As I touched upon, there are various signs of growing interest of receiving the skilled workers from abroad in general in Japan, including Bangladesh. In addition, more needs to be done for exchange between the academic as well as researchers of both sides. And in the long run, I do hope that we can nurture the mutual, not only one-sided, but mutual exchange from and to Bangladesh. So let me go into the not the concluding, but the final remarks. Maybe I stick too much to the topics which is already in the papers. We would and I should like to go beyond what has been discussed and what has been agreed. Having said this, again, going back to the document issues, which was mentioned in the old paper, 2014. I intentionally put Bengal tiger. In the old paper, mention was there to plan to transfer the pair of Bengal tiger to Japan. I think due to several reasons, that was not realized until today. And I have no intention to revitalize this idea, which my colleague has trying to go forward in the year of 2014. But in this context, it might be an idea to spend the energy to invest to improve those areas where tigers are there in Bangladesh, so that the tourists have more opportunities to encounter Bengal tiger like safari park in Africa. I'm explaining because I heard the voice from the Bangladesh side that they want to strengthen the tourist sectors as one of the promising sectors in the future. There are a variety of sectors in this country which could be developed for the diversification of the industry. But in order to envisage the further development, making this country more attractive to the tourists is very important, not from the viewpoint of the sheer diversification per se, but that could contribute to the improvement of the image of Bangladesh. Now that the direct flight between Bangladesh and Japan is realistic, it might be a good timing to think about in which point in which part of the region the Japanese can see Bengal tiger and how they can do it in a safe way and so on and so forth. I just give you some idea, food for thought again. I hope in the course of this discussion afterwards, we can exchange views in various fields. Not only concentrate on the existing and serious issues, but also innovative, forward-looking, positive things, which with full of imagination for the future relations, which we desperately needed. Thank you very much. Shobai Connect.
Bangladesh has the development plans of 100 economic zone. Part of that is Mireshorai economic zone, which government named after the Bangabandhu Bangabandhu Industrial City. And coming to further down, that is Matarbari. There is the Moheshkari Matarbari Integrated Development Initiative. The deep sea port is being built there with some other infrastructure. Power plant which were planned with the Japan, coal-based power plant. First one is done. Now with the environmental issues, further both the governments are thinking not to implement further coal-based power plant in that area, rather utilizing that land for some other purpose. The relationship has grown so much so, when Holy Artisan 2016 happened, then all the diplomats all over the globe and also in our country, we thought that development cooperation between Japan and Bangladesh will be a great halt, but that did not happen. Because of the very close relationship, we understand each other very closely, so why you could solve this issue and combat the issue of Holy Artisan. Very soon, the experts of JICA came back in our country for doing all of the metro rail, third terminal, and all other activities. In G7, 42nd G7, Ishishima, our Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, she participated. She was an important part of that. As Excellency mentioned about the GDP growth of Bangladesh, I believe if he would be allowed to speak for further time, he would mention about some other development arena also, including our GDP, life expectancy, our export-import, our electricity generation, quality of life. So, graduation of LDC is done, and government has been preparing from 2018 to combat the LDC issues and go forward. We all know that Bangladesh has a dream trajectory. Dream trajectory, it was 2021 middle income country, 2030 implementation of SDG, 2041 developed country by 2041, 2071, 100 years of our independence, and 2100 Delta Plan. Now, I want to mention that last G7 meeting, the G7 countries, they mentioned about the global warming, they mentioned about the NDC enhancement of the countries, but unfortunately, none of the participating country did enhance their NDC declaration. None of them. So the carbon emission, Bangladesh, 0.4 metric ton per capita. Whereas USA, Japan, China, Brazil, so much high. 16 ton per capita per head in USA. If they don't decrease their carbon emission, nothing doing in Bangladesh. Global warming will happen and huge quantity of land will be underwater. So we need intervention. Now coming to the Rohingya issue. Diplomatic jargons are there. Always we speak about, yes, we need to look into, we need to address. We are very thankful that the Japan, along with some other developed country, they came forward with their support for the livelihood of these Rohingya. But unfortunately, nothing happened from 2017. A single person could not be returned back to Myanmar. I think here, intervention from the developed country, including Japan, is necessary. Coming towards the skill development. Cooperation with Miyazaki, very good cooperation, very good initiative. Language and export to Japan, all these needs to be enhanced further. We have started working on this, but unfortunately, and especially in language issues, I heard that some barriers we put from our side in Bangladesh. I understand none from the government is here. I'm ex-government, Nozib is ex-government, Nazrul is ex-government. So maybe we will be advocating for this, that how best these terms and conditions can be friendly for sending our boys and girls. So we need to get support further for the strategic partnership on LDC graduation, implementation of our dream trajectory 2030, 2041, 2071, 2100. And especially the last one is the Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan. Because looking towards the IPCC report 6, year before last year, Bangladesh government felt that we need to have much more aggressive activities to combat the climate issues. So why this year, preferably in February, Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan 2023-2041 has been passed. Support in this area is required. I pay my sincere thanks again, Excellency Ambassador. So rather, if the presentation shows like that, if designation could be given professor, that would be great. Your deliberation was a professor-like. Thank you very much.
I can contribute to this forum about the economic cooperation, which is the second pillar of Ambassador Uyama's speech. And I'm a development practitioner, so I will contribute to this forum from more practical point of view. Particularly, I'd like to touch upon the agenda which JICA has been working with the government of Bangladesh. One is infrastructure, second, human resource development, and third, industrial development. Before that, let me explain briefly about the history of JICA's cooperation to Bangladesh. As you understand, JICA is taking care of the Japanese ODA, official development assistance, to developing countries. To Bangladesh, we have started our activities in 1973. That means this year is the 50th anniversary of Japanese ODA to Bangladesh. We started our cooperation by dispatching 3 young volunteers to agriculture. Since then, we have focused on the education, health, and agriculture, basically basic human needs, and the agriculture technological development. And our modality was mainly our technical cooperation and grant aid. At that time, Bangladesh is very poor. So our assistance is more about the dispatching Japanese engineers, experts to Bangladesh, and also we receive the Bangladesh government officials to Japan. Also, we provide grant aid for building infrastructure, including education facility, health facilities, and the transport infrastructure. But such situation has drastically changed in 2010s because Bangladesh has more capacity for repayment. We started providing a large-scale concessional loan to Bangladesh, and we support Bangladesh to build large-scale infrastructure. And our cooperation volume has increased quite drastically. Now, Bangladesh is the second largest recipient of our ODA loan operation all over the world after India. So that is the, also, as Mr. Azad mentioned, 2016 for the Altitan incident was quite unfortunate, but thanks to very good friendship, partnership, and trust between Japan and Bangladesh, I think we have overcome such tragic incident, and we are now here. So coming to infrastructure, JICA these days known for infrastructure development. We have cooperated to a number of large-scale infrastructure projects, including the Jomna Bridge, which was completed almost 20 years ago, and Pakse Bridge, Lupsha Bridge, Khachipu Bridge, Meghna Bridge, Gumti Bridges, and 3 lines of MRT projects, including Line 6, Line 1, and Line 5 Northern Route. And Terminal 3 of Hazrat Shahjahan International Airport, Bongo Bondu Railway Bridge over Jamuna River, and development of the deep seaport in the country at Matabali. We have given greater importance of quality of works. Quality of works is our priority. Quality infrastructure, and also smooth implementation of the project involving Japanese companies, particularly Khachipu, Gumti, Meghna Bridge is a really particular examples. The project was completed ahead of the schedule. That is really outstanding achievement of Japanese companies and also JICA, I believe. And also I was very honored to take part in and deliver speech in inauguration ceremony of MRT Line 6 in December last year, and also groundbreaking ceremony of MRT line in January, attended by Honorable Prime Minister Hasina. I'm sure MRT lines 615 would provide most comfortable and efficient transport method in Dhaka. And such MRT lines will make significant transformation and improvement of people's life in Dhaka. Human resource development. Human resource development has been focused area since independence of Bangladesh. So far, we have dispatched more than 5,000 Japanese experts in many sectors to Bangladesh. We have trained 14,000 Bangladesh government officials in Japan. And furthermore, we have dispatched 1,300 volunteers to various the sectors, areas under JOCB, the Japanese volunteer programs. We have suspended these volunteer programs after 2016 for the Artisan, but as it was announced by both prime ministers, we are going to resume this volunteer operation. We will dispatch volunteers pretty soon. Notable cooperation in this human resource development is curriculum and textbook development of science and math education in primary school, community-based maternal and child health services, nursing education. On top of that, agriculture and related water management, urban water supply, storage, and disaster prevention have been JICA's focus area. And we should not forget about the JICA's recent cooperation about the integrated energy and power master plan, which support government of Bangladesh to achieve carbon neutrality. That is really important, the cooperation for climate change. Coming to industrial development, as you understand now, the graduation from LDC is waiting for Bangladesh. Also, according to Vision 2041, Bangladesh has to reach upper middle income country by 2031 and developed country 2041. For that purpose, industrial development beyond relying on RMG sector, that is really significant. So JICA has been giving more importance for such industrial development these days. Let me explain three notable initiatives for this objective. One is ICT industry. ICT sector has tremendous potential in Bangladesh. That is shown also the example of India. JICA's technical cooperation project already Ambassador Iwama has explained. We have cooperated the BJET program. The official name is Bangladesh Japan ICT Engineers Training Program, which provided young ICT engineers with Japanese language trainings and business manner. Our technical cooperation was from 2017 to 2020. That means it was already completed. But that program was succeeded by North-South University and the Miyazaki University. They continue such activities. Already more than 300 young ICT engineers have been trained in this program, and more than 200 engineers have been employed in Japan. In addition to that, JICA is planning to scale up our technical cooperation to the ICT sector in collaboration with ICT division and Bangladesh Computer Council and Bangladesh Association of Software and Information Services, BASIS. So we are going to start a new technical cooperation project this year to scale up the skill development of ICT engineers. The second is development of manufacturing sector through development of the industrial parks and also skill development. This was also explained by Ambassador Iwama. The world-class industrial park was developed in Arai Hazar with JICA's cooperation and also initiative by Sumitomo, Japanese company. That is really world-class, the industrial park, and the JICA has provided a number of cooperation to BSEZ, including land development, equity investment, and one-stop services for approval to the company which are interested in making investment. And for skill development, we are going to start a new technical cooperation project for skill development in collaboration with Association of Private Companies about the plastic industry and light engineering industry. Third is development of Matabari deep sea port and surrounding areas. The government of Japan and JICA have provided strong support to development of that area because Matabari deep sea port is the first ever deep sea port in Bangladesh and can play significant role for the improvement of logistics and industry in Bangladesh and beyond Bangladesh to other countries. some people misunderstand Matabali port will be developed future. But actually, Matabali deep sea port already in use. But that is for coal-fired power project. Under JICA-funded Matabali coal-fired power project, deep sea port was already developed. And that is already in use for shipping of coals. But under another JICA-funded project, Matabali Port Development Project, which covers dredging, container terminal development, multi-purpose bulk terminal development, and development of high-quality 27-kilometer access road between Chakalia, which is National Highway number 1, to Matabali area. Now, tendering is underway, so hopefully tender will be completed soon, construction will be started, and the project will be completed 2027, hopefully. And many Japanese companies are interested in being involved in construction. So again, that project should be very quality and a timely project, I hope. And MIDI, as Mr. Azar said, MIDI is Moheshkali Matabali Integrated Infrastructure Initiative. MIDI is a fast-track project by government of Bangladesh, aiming to development of Moheshkali Matabali area. So this is not only Matabali deep sea port, but also it covers development of power, energy in that area, also industrial development in that area. I think this MIDI area has tremendous potential. So, JICA and the government of Japan continue to provide support. And the MIDI master plan study is going to be started pretty soon, hopefully maybe in September, October. That is really good push to move forward this MIDI initiative. Yep, I believe, I think those efforts have served and would serve evolution of trust and friendship between Japan and Bangladesh, and also social and economic development of Bangladesh. JICA, based on trust and partnership during the last 50 years, committed to continuing to be a bridge between Japan and Bangladesh. That's all. Thank you very much. Onek Dondobar.
I was involved in Japanese in teaching profession and broadcasting and interacting with Japanese people. And from that viewpoint, I'd like to focus on this people-to-people relationship, particularly at grassroots level, what is happening in Japan, and also how Bangladesh is participating in that. And Ambassador Iwama has rightfully mentioned about this Friendship City Agreement. Bangladesh was lagging behind in this because Japan has Friendship City Agreement with most of other Asian countries and multiple cities and others. And also they have periodic conference of these cities held in different parts of Japan. And it's really pleasing that Bangladesh has joined at last, that Narayanganj has signed the treaty with Naruto. Naruto is quite unknown among Bangladeshis, but it's an amazing city, and it's industrial and also cultural. Not only Japanese, probably one of the first NGOs in the world which started functioning in Bangladesh is Shaplanir. Name also in Bengali they have adopted. Initially they were called Help Bangladesh Committee, and then they renamed because their focus was on Bangladesh. It was the Shaplanir. And Shaplanir has celebrated 50th anniversary last year. In 1972 they started. And today Professor Wahashi is joining in online. He is also he is deeply involved with Shaplanir. And later there are other, these non-governmental organizations moved on. And also Honorable Representative of JICA mentioned about these JOCB volunteers. They are also, I feel that although coming through JOCB official, they have also some grassroots connection. That is, those volunteers, they work for 2, 3 years, 3 years mostly, and when they go back, they have a deep feeling for Bangladesh. They always have this, they nurture this, their good memories and always work to enhance the relationship further. So this is, and it was quite sad that this program was discontinued after 2016 Holy Artisan incident. But now I feel encouraged that what JICA chief has mentioned, it will be revived soon. And soon we'll see again young Japanese volunteers coming to Bangladesh. And before they come to Bangladesh, they learn the language. And they improve their skill while working in remote areas of Bangladesh, because there they have to use the Bengali language only. And when they go back with the language skill, with this with the new learning about the country, and they work as a goodwill ambassadors on behalf of Bangladesh. Bangladesh Ministry of Foreign Affairs started a program to invite these students who are learning, Japanese students who are learning Bengali in Tokyo University of Foreign Studies, to a 10-day tour to Bangladesh, which allowed these young people to have an in-depth understanding of the country. And when they go back with a very good feeling. And this program has also unfortunately been discontinued. So if it is relaunched again, I would request Ambassador Yama to look at, then this will be another point of enhancing our grassroots relationship. And grassroots relationship is also very deeply connected in cultural issues. For example, there are a number of Japanese scholars who are working on culture, history, society of Bangladesh. And Professor Kyoko Niwa, who until very recently who headed Bengali department of Tokyo University of Foreign Studies, she has translated a number of literary works of Bangladesh, including the short stories of Bangladesh that includes Akhtar Zaman Ilyas, Selina Hussein's works, and also translated poems of Shamsur Rahman, Shahid Qadri, and others. So exclusively on Bangladesh. And there are other people also. Another is Japan has a radio program in Bengali language, which is running since 1962. And it's not that widely known in Bangladesh as BBC or Deutsche Welle, but they are continuously continuing that. And one of the person who was heading that Bengali department, he retired recently, Kazuhiro Watanabe. He translated from Bengali to Japanese and Japanese to Bengali as well. Hayakawa Takeshi, he has written a memoir on his relationship with Bangladesh. Watanabe-san translated that. He also translated Bangabandhu's unfinished autobiography into Japanese. So these are the people who are working, not being in the limelight, but they are making very sincere and serious contribution. So we need to nurture this relationship further. And that will be, in the next 50 years, this group, young Japanese JICA volunteers, people who are learning Bengali language, and people who are translating Bengali works into Japanese or Japanese works into Bengali, they will play further crucial role in enhancing our friendship between the countries, which never had any conflict. Japan and Bangladesh, whatever government in Bangladesh is there, Japan is always with us.
Japan is an Asian power, first and foremost. It is a Pacific power, but it's first and foremost is an Asian power. And the extent of your Asia now extends to where we are. You have talked about your strategic partnerships that you have evolved in the region, and also your hopes of how to help Bangladesh become a nodal hub for regional cooperation and possibly regional integration in some manner in the economic sense. Your equation with India, I think, is of extreme importance now in this context for Bangladesh as well. And I think Prime Minister Kishida's recent address was really a turning point and a statement of giving a new impetus, which led to the transition of our own relationship from a comprehensive partnership to becoming a strategic partnership. As you have rightly said, the three pillars remain the same. Our goals now are how we inject more depth, more dimensions, more vision, and more resilience to these three pillars. The three pillars in any society: economic development, social development and stability, and how people are involved in the development of their economy and the social society, which you can term as democracy or we can term as people participation. Democracy is a very peculiar term. It defies definition within parameters. It is a garden with many splendid flowers in it. And each nation defines democracy in the way its history and tradition and culture shapes it. Japan's democracy is derived from its own cultural roots and history. It is neither the American pattern, nor the British pattern, nor the German or French pattern. It is a Japanese pattern of democracy. Every country has the right to develop its own pattern of democracy, and they do so through their own organic development. It cannot be done by force. There is no one shoe that fits anyone. There is no one model that anyone can adapt. And therefore, everyone has to keep that in mind. You try to stir up something in society, you may end up with something which you don't want. And in that context, you mentioned about date lines and about how date lines affected your own development. For us, our date line also has a meaning. One date line is from 1972 until 2008. And then the second date line is from 2009 until perhaps 2019, which saw the highest growth in trajectory of Bangladesh and bringing Bangladesh away from where it was to where it is today. And then there's the deadline of the COVID-19 and the Russian-Ukrainian war, which threatens to destabilize what we have achieved. And I think in this, now I'll try and bring together the different thoughts. Your Prime Minister Kishida's trip to India had a purpose, a strategic purpose. And his statement, which I think all of us need to look at very carefully, is that there he mentions Bangladesh more than once, at least twice, maybe more, by implication. The importance he attaches to the Northeast and Bangladesh as a hub for the Northeast to grow, for the connectivity. This is not in isolation. It serves Japan's self-interest and national interest and strategic interest as much as it serves ours. How can you now use the platform of the strategic partnership defined to help Bangladesh stabilize, develop intrinsic resilience, and not be shaken by the different pushes and pulls that it will be subjected to? Because unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, we are at the epicenter of what you describe as the Indo-Pacific. And being at the epicenter, we will have the bad fortune or the good fortune of being the subject of pulls and pushes, as which we are being subjected to right now. I allude to something you mentioned about regional cooperation and how it will affect, I allude to one development which took place, which was announced only 2 days ago, during the meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Dhakal of Nepal. The agreement to allow the Indian grid line to transfer 40 megawatts of hydropower from Nepal to Bangladesh. In our transition from dirty energy to clean energy, this region, Bangladesh, India, Northeast India, Nepal, and Bhutan, have more than enough latent hydropower to power all our energy needs of not just these 4 countries or this sub-region, but even beyond. 40 megawatts symbolically is a small amount, but symbolic is it could be a huge amount, like 250 megawatts of power trade in 2012 was between India and Bangladesh. That 212 has grown exponentially and it can keep growing. Why hydropower was not developed is because all the countries are landlocked. If they know how to cooperate, then the power will flow. If the power flows, our transition to green energy will be exponentially faster. And that is where I would suggest that JICA looks at helping investment in the hydropower section in Bhutan, in Nepal, in Northeast India, with Bangladesh as a partner, providing the facility to carry this power across. Of course, in the transition, we will have to continue to depend on less clean, less green energy. But perhaps the goal can be set now so that it becomes effective over the next 8 to 10 years. In the meantime, Japan is already progressed a lot. Technological advancements have been made to other forms of clean energy, wave energy, hydrogen energy. Mitsubishi, I was very impressed by the Mitsubishi model that they displayed at the COP27 pavilion that they had. Perhaps you could also help in transfer of technology to Bangladesh in developing power like this, because we have not yet been able to harness it. And then where do we draw synergies from each other? And here I will quote some statistics from the Teikoku data bank of Japan, which lists a number of areas where you are going to face a skill shortage because of your aging population. And that is where Bangladesh, with its youth dividend, can complement what you are going to face a deficit in, and bring in perhaps the elements of teaching of the Japanese language, teaching of skills, do it in a manner that it fits your industries, and also do it in a manner that the same people can come back and invest and become partners of the joint investment that we'll have in Bangladesh. That is where I see Bangladesh and Japan complementing each other, faced with similar challenges, strategic challenges, both striving to keep off the pressures from the rock and the hard places that surround them, and standing up in their own individual strengths. And I'll rest my remarks here with those suggestions. Thank you very much.